Hey, everybody. Hi, Carrie Ann King here again, and I'm super excited this is really, like every week, I know I say that, but this is going to be extra fun today. I have Caroline Leavitt here. Hi, Carolyn.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Carolyn and I have been chatting backstage before we went live with you guys, and she has all the best stories. But I need to introduce her just a little bit. So, Caroline Leavitt is a New York Times bestselling author. Her new book is With or Without You, and we both have copies. She was so kind to send me an actual hardcover. I don't have many. I adore them. And this book, it came out earlier this month. It's got beautiful reviews for all the right reasons. I just finished reading last night. It's absolutely mesmerizing. Like once you pick it up, you're going to want to just, it's one of those hard to put down types of books. So anyways, welcome, Caroline. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
I want to dive right in before we do anything else. I'm sorry, those of you who are listening to this on the podcast, because we're going to go on about the cover a little bit. So you need to make sure that you find a copy because this cover is absolutely gorgeous. And one of the first things I said to Carolyn when I saw it, it reminds me. Here, I'm going to make this bigger. Hang on.
Yeah, I'm not doing such a good job.
Again. There we go. Try again.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, there. Now we can. Right, left thing.
All right.
This book looks like a painting, is what I said to Caroline, and she said,
"It is a painting. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, right below the kiss mark, I can point at it, but you're not going to see me pointing. You can see in the upper right corner, there is the painting. When Algonquin showed me the cover, I loved it so much. I said, who did that? And they gave me the name of the artist, who was Claire Esser. And I found her, and I said, I love this painting so much. Could you do me a painting of it? And of course, I bought it from her, and she did, and it's hanging in my wall now. And I love it. I just absolutely love it.
I can't imagine. I would just adore having a painting, of one of my books. It's cool enough to have a poster. I have mine. My Viking always insists every time I have a new cover, we get it framed. So I have my wall of books. God, a painting. And there's more, right?
Because whoops, let me get this right. This is my book, Pictures of You, which I'll talk about a little later because I have a really good story about that. And they made the cover, it's a 10th anniversary edition, and they made it to go with this. And that, let me go around. If you go to look at the top right-hand corner, you will see a painting of that too. That is by another artist, Jim Salvati, and I found him and told him the same thing. I love this cover. Please, will you make me a canvas and I'll buy it from you? And he said, oh, absolutely. And he made it for me. And so I have these two gorgeous paintings in my room now that are original art that they're just amazing. It's just amazing to have.
Oh, yeah. And just because I always feel like a book is, this is why I prefer paper books. I know a lot of people,
I do too.
Ebooks, but they're a work of art. You have the cover, you have the pages. It's something you can hold in your hands. So to be able to have an actual,
it's incredible. I know, it's incredible, and it's signed. Both of the paintings are signed too, which makes me really, really happy.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. So before we actually talk about With or Without You, because it's a fabulous book, and of course we want to talk about that, but let's talk about the making the New York Times best-selling list in the first.
This is a good story. Yeah, I had a very, this is for anybody who writes, who always thinks, if you're getting rejections, my message to you is like, ignore. I published my very first novel when I was in my 20s, and it did really, really well. And I had a little taste of fame, and I thought, oh, this is great. I love this. And I thought it would go on forever. And of course it didn't. Second book came out. It did okay, not as well. Publisher went out of business. Then I got a 3-book deal with a big publisher, and they did, if the publisher doesn't promote you, it's, no sales. I got 2 reviews, both very good reviews, but no sales. Then I got another big 3-book deal with this major publisher. Same thing, like 1 good review, no sales. Nobody knew who I was. All my friends were by now being well known and getting prizes and stuff. And there I was thinking, what am I doing? So I was writing this book. pictures of you. And the editor called me up and said, Caroline, we're not going to publish this. We just don't like it.
Oh
And
my
I was
God.
totally shocked. I said, what do you mean you don't like it? What can I do to make it better?
Heartbreaking.
I know. And she said, we talked about it and we don't think there's anything you can do. We just don't get it. We don't get the book. And I said, well, if I'm working on something else, can I show you that? Can that fulfill the contract? And there was a funny silence. Then she said, no, we don't really think so, but best of luck in the future. And it was nice to work with you and blah, blah, blah. And goodbye. So I knew that was my 9th book. If you have 9 books out, even if you have 4 books out and you haven't sold anything and nobody knows who you are and you're just sort of hanging on by your fingertips, it's very, very hard to sell a book. So
yes, it's absolutely
nearly impossible.
Earlier, it's amazing to me that you kept getting 3-book contracts, given that you had no. So you had to have been very good. I'm just going to throw
I guess they thought they could turn it around for me, and they never did. So I cried to all my writer friends, and one of my friends said, look, I have this new editor at Algonquin, and I want to talk to her about you. And I said, that would be lovely, but I'm not expecting anything. I was just thinking, well, I'm just going to write for myself now, or I'll find a really tiny publisher, or I'll self-publish, or I'll do something. So she took it to this editor, and this editor called me, and it took me about 10 minutes to realize this editor was pitching Algonquin to me. And I said, wait a minute. I said, you're pitching Algonquin to me, but I have to be truthful with you. I don't sell books. I said, I have 8 books out here. This is my 9th book, and nobody knows who I am. And she sort of laughed, and she said, you know what? They're going to know now. Don't worry. So they bought the book for a very modest sum. And they got it into like 6 printings months before it came out, just from word of mouth and all the publicity they were doing. Got on the New York Times bestseller list. Its 2nd week out.
Congratulations.
It was a Costco pennies pick, which is this big deal. It means everyone who goes to Costco gets this book. So I was just sort of astonished. And so meanwhile, while all this is going on and I'm getting all this attention now and all my phone is ringing off the hook and everybody suddenly knows me, I'm trying to figure out what this means, I get an email. And it's from the editor who told me that the book was not special enough. Only she thought she was writing to her gynecologist. And she had this really gross problem. And I thought, oh, what do I do? I mean, I could be really mean about this, but I decided, no, I'm a nice person. I'm just going to let it go. So I didn't answer. 2 days later, she wrote me again, thinking I was her gynecologist. And this time the problem had gotten worse and more specific. So I thought, oh, that poor woman, I better answer. So I just answered her very nicely and said, hi, this is Caroline. I think you meant this email for your doctor, not for me. And she answered right away, and she said, hi, Caroline, how are you? And I answered back, and I said, I'm doing great. I'm on the New York Times bestseller list, and now it's my 2nd week. And she never answered. She never answered back. But oddly enough, recently she asked my agent if I wanted to come back to her, and my agent said no. So it was an amazing thing. But it actually was really good that all this happened later, because now I realize that I can take any sort of rejection right now, because I feel like it doesn't really mean what you think it means. Careers go like this. And if you're a writer out there and you get rejections, it's just one person's opinion, and you just have to really build up a thick skin and don't listen.
Right. And it doesn't always or often have anything to do with how good the book is, which is the hard thing, is the hard thing to remember. I have to say, this is the best karmic story, though, that I have ever heard. Just like
it was indeed karma. But you're right, it has nothing to do with the book. I have friends who have written amazing books and they couldn't get agents. And then I know people who have written books that I felt were, I'm not going to tear apart anybody's book, but I felt these books were like, not as good as the books who couldn't get agents.
Right.
And they zoomed to the top of the bestseller list. So it has nothing to do with the quality of the book.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it's just, I don't know, something in the wind.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? It's not our business anyway. Our business is just to write the books. So.
I love that you said that. And we're going to talk about that idea in a minute. Hold that idea. The business is just to write the books, because that's kind of the sort of thing that Stella would say.
Yeah, that's right. That's Stella.
Oops, we're upside down now in With or Without You. So let's talk a little bit about With or Without You. Could you tell us a little bit about what the book is about?
With or Without You, it's about a lot of things. It's on the surface, it's a book about what happens in a long time standing relationship when people change, and specifically in their 40s, which is the time when, if you're female, you have to make a decision whether you want to biologically have a child or not. If you're a guy, a lot of guys have a midlife crisis, and you just start to think, like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I wanted to explore what happens when one person changes and the other doesn't. But it's also about brain chemistry and how we can change ourselves. And, Simon he's this once famous rock and roller now in his 40s, and he's starting to verge on being called dad music. And he has like one last chance to make it. And success is really important to him. Stella is a nurse, and she wants him to grow up. She wants him to buy their New York City apartment. She wants to have a child. She wants a different sort of life. And they're arguing and drinking, and they take a pill, they take a drug. And in the morning, Simon wakes up and she doesn't. And she goes into coma. And when she comes out, she's radically different, which actually can happen in coma. She has a different personality, some different memories, and she has a startling talent, which gives her the fame that Simon always wanted, and she's not so sure she didn't want. So that's the top story. The bottom story is that I was actually in a medically induced coma for 3.5 weeks, years and years ago. And it happened after the birth of my son. I just developed this very mysterious, rare blood disorder, and they didn't know what to do with me, so they put me in a coma. But the one thing that they did that was really bad, I think, is they gave me these memory blockers. I mean, who knew there was such a thing? But there is, and they do it so they can do whatever test they want and you'll forget about it. So when they do it again, you won't instantly tense up. Yeah. So when I came out of the coma, I didn't remember anything about the coma, nothing, absolutely nothing. But my body remembered, and I kept having these terrible triggers. When I was in the hospital for 3 months, and then I was home in bed for another 3 months, and it took me a year to get better. But if I would see somebody wearing, say, a striped shirt, I would break out into a sweat, and I wouldn't know why until Jeff, my husband, would say, well, that was the stripe of the curtain in the hospital. Or if I would smell something like a packaged soup, that would set me off. And I couldn't get to sleep. I was terrified to go sleep. So I went to see a therapist, and the therapist said, well, you're a writer. Why don't you write about it? So I wrote my first coma novel, which was called Coming Back to Me, which was about a woman just like me, didn't remember anything about the coma. And the book came out. It did okay. This was like pre-New York Times. It did okay. It got like 2 or 3 great reviews, but not really sales. And I still was having those triggers. So about 5 years ago, I went to a new therapist and said, I don't know what to do about this. I can't sleep at night. I'm really terrified of the dark. And she listened to the story and she said, well, you know what? You wrote the wrong book. She said, you should write a book about somebody in coma who's totally different from you. And then you can live through her experience and have it come out differently. Right. So I thought, oh, that's an idea. So I made Stella totally different from me in that she remembers everything in her coma, and it's not frightening for her. It's just kind of a strange experience. Unlike me, she comes out totally different. I did not have a personality change, and I did not have any new talent come out, but she does. But the interesting thing about that is I figured, well, I really have to research this. So I found this guy at the University of Cincinnati, Joseph Clark, who's a researcher in neurobiology and comas. And I said, what can I have her do? And he said, well, in coma, we really don't know what happens. All we know is that the brain is rewiring and refiring. And basically, you can have whatever you want happen. And he told me there were people who would come out of comas and they would be speaking fluent Mandarin when they had never spoken any other language but English. And there was one person who woke up who asked for a violin, and he had never played the violin or any instrument. And suddenly he was a virtuoso.
Oh my
And he went on
God.
to play at concert halls, and just all kinds of bizarre things can happen. And when I heard that, I felt this incredible lightness. Like, this is amazing. I can really have fun writing this and living through this. And as I wrote the book, the more I was living through Stella, the more a lot of these triggers were just sort of vanishing until they all left, except for the one about I still don't really love to go to sleep at night. I like to have all the lights on.
Yeah.
But that's the worst of it. I'm not having panic attacks or anything. And the whole thing studying that brain chemistry made me realize that, you know what, if you have a way to tap into that, you can probably change a lot of different things about yourself, including traumatic memories you might have, or, if you wish you were braver, or, more whatever. Who knows what can be done. I just found that so much fun to write about and so fascinating.
Well, it totally is fascinating. And I love that, really, in some ways, Stella in her coma, she has these moments that are absolutely beautiful for her.
Yeah.
Like it's always a good dream that she's having, where she can smell the colors or taste them. And
I loved writing that. I absolutely loved writing those sections, because it was sort of like, she was in a coma, but she was looking around like, wow, look at that, and look what's going on over there. And this is she was not terrified. And I liked that she was not terrified.
And when she came back, she was almost like a child in her wonder, as everything was wide open and all of the bright colors and, and then getting into the drawing. Michelle's here with us now. Michelle says hypnosis cured my panic attacks back in the late 80s.
That's incredible. Yeah, hypnosis can do a lot of stuff. There's also something that I put in the book that this writer, Alice Anderson, who had a brain injury, and she cured herself through something called binaural. I hope I'm pronouncing it right.
Yeah, you put that.
Binaural beats, and I started listening to them. They're all over YouTube, and supposedly they have the same frequency. You have to listen to them with headphones. They have the same frequencies as certain brain waves, and if you listen to them, supposedly they can help you sleep better, or they can cure headaches, or tinnitus, or there's even some of them that are supposed to be like, they're supposed to reproduce the sensation of a drug episode, but I don't know about that. Those weren't the ones that I looked at. But I listened to them a lot for concentration when I was, and I don't know whether it was just my mind saying, oh, now these are going to make me concentrate better, so therefore I am concentrating better. But they seem to work for me. And again, it's like brain chemistry is incredible.
It's just amazing. I'm really into tapping as well. Like
I know tapping. Yeah.
But I know hypnosis, you can actually, like, if you're recreating a trauma experience with somebody in hypnosis, and they've been, like, they did this one study where somebody had been tortured and burned, and the blisters would begin rising on the skin, like 20 years later, the body remembered. It's just absolutely
the body remembers, and the brain, it's the brain doesn't know the difference between a suggestion or whatever. That's why there's been a lot of cases of people with false memories when they're accusing people of abuse, because those memories, they seem real, and you can plant those in people, but you can also plant good memories.
Right. It's interesting stuff, isn't it? Another thing that I really was interesting to me about the book, because I also believe this. I am a mental health counselor in another life. Not doing it right now, but always been fascinated by this. If one person changes, everybody has to change. That's the other thing. It's like, so Stella wakes up dramatically changed, and Simon and her best friend Libby, they also then are thrown into this cycle of change, because the cosmos is off. You can't, you
can't be the same. You have to change. I mean, they could have made different choices. I mean, Simon could have chosen to go off to California and say, I can't deal with this. And Stella could have made it. But yeah, if one person changes, you can see it as an opportunity to change and grow yourself, and, figure out deeper things about yourself in your own life.
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't like doing family therapy, by the way, and this is partly why it gets really messy. So if one person within the family unit, like often, say you have an addict and somebody starts to try and get clean, lots of times the rest of the family will try and keep them from getting
they
clean,
want
even
the
though they think
stasis.
they want that, because then everything changes and then they also have to change, and we resist. We resist, we resist, we resist.
Yeah, it's like one person changed and everybody changed. So I was just really interested in like, what would that do to somebody if someone you love suddenly were different and you thought you were going on this trajectory and all of a sudden it's upside down.
Right.
What do you do?
Right. Right. And what a fascinating thing to play with. Would you do us first? I want to just, I'm going to get you to read us a page here in a minute. But Michelle says, my hypnosis experience went back to when my house burned down when I was 12.
Oh, no.
I was in the house at the time, got out, but not without scars. I became very nervous and needed to know all exits. So I can only imagine, Michelle, that would just be.
Wow. I'm so glad you went through the hypnosis to stop that.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Amazing. I'm sorry, what did you say before?
I said, I think we need to get you to read a little bit.
Okay. Okay, I will read you Stella in the Coma, my favorite part. Let's see. Wait. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to read a page and a half.
Yeah.
Stella floats. She doesn't have a body, though she knows it's there apart from her on this bed. She can hear Simon talking to her, although she can't make out the words. The rise and fall of his voice confuses her. It's rich and almost gravelly, the way it had been when he was in his 20s, when she had first met him, and he was still smoking. Allergic to smoke, she had sneezed at his kisses, but he stopped smoking for her. Simon now says something to her more urgent, but she can't make out a syllable. Grrr, it sounds like a fake kitten growl. Bzz, he says, like the wings of a fly smashing up against a pane of glass. Even though she can't understand him, his voice soothes her. It's real and known and familiar. Simon, my Simon. She wants to tell him how sorry she is that they argued. She didn't think he meant it about their dreams being different. It was the storm raging outside, the wine making them both woozy. They were both so tired, so exhausted. But how funny. Here in this place, she doesn't have her cold anymore. Here in this place, she wasn't aware of her body and its function. Breathing, sweating, peeing, they all seem part of another life to her, something she used to do, but she doesn't do any longer. Wave bye-bye, body. Sayonara. The thought of it makes her laugh, makes her glad she still has her sense of humor. Mostly what she does is smell things, something sharp like lemon, whisks by her nose. Wait, she wants to say. Please wait. But the scent fades and vanishes before she can really lock onto it. She hears sounds and she perks with interest. Feet pat on the floor, voices dip and rise and grow silent. She feels an elbow bumping against something hard, but she knows it isn't her elbow, so how could she feel it? She dreams too, but it isn't so much that she's dreaming as that she feels that she's actually there in her dreams, dropped down from one place to another. She doesn't bother to wonder why. She isn't certain there are any answers. I'm here, she wants to say to Simon. I'm right here. She feels so sorry for him when she hears him crying. She can feel where he is by the heat in the room moving closer to her, warming her. She can hear it too, little skips in his voice, the loss of control. He's a color too, a soft gray blue. She knows there's a scientific name for that there are people who can hear colors, who can see sounds. Synesthesia. I can't pronounce it. The word appears in her head. A surprise memory. She wants to stroke his hair and tell him it's going to be okay. Don't worry, baby, she thinks, so she's never once called him baby. Don't worry. And there you go.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's dreamy, you know, it feels dreamy.
Yeah, it felt dreamy. And that chapter is sort of what I felt like Stella was saving me, because I got to relive that and rewriting it.
And I'm fascinated by that, because often, like, if you're having nightmares and those sorts of things, you can rewrite them. That's one of the therapies.
Yes.
So it's kind of a similar sort of a thing in a way, is to take your dream and to rewrite it so that it has a more powerful ending.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just became more of a positive ending for me, and I thought that was important.
I love that you've been transformed through your own book. That's such a absolutely.
Yeah, it's really great. It's really great.
And I think that's one of the reasons that we write. Although we also, I don't know about you, but I think I tend to avoid sometimes, like when it's going to be when it's going to be deep work like that. It's like I'll write about this, but I'll keep up here, and then as I get in, I'm like, yeah, no, I got to dive in, and then
Yeah, you have to. It's like writers are the canaries in the coal mine. Everybody wants to see if there's diamonds in there, but everybody's afraid to go there. So writers have to go down there deep. And if you're afraid of writing something, that means that's exactly what you have to write.
right.
Because then it becomes universal, and then you help so many other people who say, "Oh, I feel that too," or "Boy, I'm glad you went there, so I don't have to go there."
Right. And you definitely didn't, I don't feel that you held anything back.
No, I tend not to hold anything back. It sometimes gets me in trouble, but
I hear you. I've been there too. So, another thing I'd like to talk about, because I think this is really awesome. I love this about you. I know you do a lot of work to help other authors too.
I do.
And I love the author support. So do you want to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
what you've been doing with that?
I grew up in a family where, part of it was, everything was my fault, and my family was not really all that kind. There was always like a catch to being kind. And I determined that I wasn't going to be like that. And I had a lot of people help me in my writing career. And I also had some writers who were sort of nasty to me too, but that's their issue. But I just determined that I was always going to help writers however I could, because it made me feel good, and it was putting kindness in the world, and it disassociated myself from my family. So when the pandemic started up, I was just about ready to go to Texas for a huge library convention, and I memorized my whole speech with hand movements and all
Oh,
these other things, and it was canceled. And I was really upset. And they said, "Well, we think everything is going to be canceled." And I kept walking around saying, "Nothing is canceled. Nothing is canceled. I can't let this happen." So I made a video of myself, of the speech that I was going to give, and I sent it to my publisher, who said, "This is great. We're going to send it to all the libraries." And I thought, wow, maybe I can do this for other people. So I just sort of put out a message on Facebook saying, "I'm starting the Nothing is Canceled book tour. Writers, if you have a book tour canceled, make me a video. Only thing you have to do is shout out another author, shout out an indie bookstore because they're struggling, and I'll get it all over social media. And I have a lot of followers. So let's go do this." And I thought I was going to have like just 5, maybe. And I ended up with 200 the first week. And I thought, this is really bizarre. And it was more and more and more. And I was trying to figure out how to do it. And then I got a call from this other writer, Jenna Blum, who said, "Listen, I've been watching what you're doing, and I've been thinking of doing something like it. But what if we just join forces?" And I was so happy that she said that. So we did, and we created this thing called A Mighty Blaze, where basically we were just going to showcase videos. You got a book, you lost your tour, come to us, we'll showcase your videos. And it was like driving a rocket and not knowing how the rocket works. All of a sudden, we were good. We had like 200 requests a day. And then the Washington Post was calling us and wanted to interview us. And then the Authors Guild wanted to partner with us. And then all of a sudden, it was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We had to hire a staff of 20 people to help us, all unpaid. And it's a very lucky partnership, because Jenna is a genius as a producer. I mean, the way her mind works is she's not only a gorgeous writer, but she can say, "Let's run a virtual book festival," and she'll know how to do it and who to get in touch with and how to make it happen. Or she'll say, "Let's have Mighty Mysteries on Monday, and we'll have Sarah DeVillo interview all these mystery writers, and we'll have new people publishing on Tuesdays, and Friday we'll have this big thing, and we'll get really big famous writers." She has all the parts working. What I do my particular gift, and I don't know how I have this, is I'm somehow able to get to writers and get them to come on the Blaze. I mean, I got John Irving to come, which took me a long time.
How did I miss that?
Oh, it's on the Blaze. The interview's on the Blaze, and it's amazing. He was my hero, and
Absolutely.
I tracked down I had to track down who his publicist was in the book department and talk to her. And she said, well, I don't know. I have to talk to John. And then they had to talk to John's assistant. And then this other stuff had to happen. And it happened. And I thought, wow, this is really amazing that I get to talk to these people I love. So I just reach out to them. And for some reason, only one has said no, and that was because she was way too busy. And they all say yes. I mean, so that's sort of my function in the Blaze. I sort of do that, and I'm the co-founder, but the real brains of the Blaze, I would say, is Jenna and all the other people that are working with us, the producers, the tech people. We have a publicist who's amazing. It's strange, and it's growing. So if there's any writers out there and you feel like you're not getting the publicity you would like, contact us.
Awesome. And how can readers get, all of these interviews and everything?
Right now we have a website called unmitydblaze.com, and all the interviews are going to live there. We're about to have a YouTube station very soon, and all the interviews will live there too. We have a Facebook page. I'm not sure. There's daily interviews on there that you can watch. And I think that's it. I'm not quite sure what else is going to happen, except that it's a wonderful feeling to help the writers community,
Right.
to help other writers and to get to know a lot of writers. And, there's just a feeling of joy in it. And it's been amazing. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never started anything like this in my life. But
that's amazing. It just took off. Let's talk about where everybody can find you now also, because that's obviously also very important.
I am everywhere. I'm everywhere. You can find me on Twitter at Leavitt Novelist.
And Leavitt is spelled, for those of you who are
Leavitt.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can find everything you want to know and don't want to know at my website, which is CarolineLeavitt.com.
Right. Caroline, hang on one second. Caroline is CAROLINE, and it's LEAVITT.com.
.com. I'm also on Facebook at Caroline Leavitt. And I'm also on Instagram at Caroline Leavitt. So I'm just sort of starting to learn how to use Instagram. So I'm not on there as much as I am on Twitter and Facebook. And I'm always available. I'm really, really easy to find.
Right. And it's, I'd forgotten this one. So this is our very last story, but I still need you to tell it. So your name, Caroline.
Oh, right.
We talked about this. You used to be a Carolyn.
Right. Names are very, very important. I decided when I was 17 that I wanted to differentiate myself from my family because they were so dysfunctional. And I started calling myself Caroline instead of Carolyn. I was born with the name Caroline Sue Leavitt. And I decided I wanted to change it. And to change your name legally in New Jersey is such a pain. You have to fill out all this paperwork and you have to get your original birth certificate. And I found in my original birth certificate that my middle name actually wasn't Sue anyway. It was Susan, which is kind of interesting. And you have to pay $500 and you have to go before a judge and explain why you want to do that. So while I was waiting in line to tell the judge, that I just need to change my name, it's not a big change, there was a guy in front of me and he wanted to change his name it was something like Peter Pirate. And the judge said, really? And why do you want to change your name to that? And the guy said, oh, that's my pirate name. I have my pirate name. So people, I imagine, can change their name to anything they want. But it's all legal now, and I'm really glad I did it. Names can make you feel different. And it just felt like it just was incredibly freeing, although my family was not that happy about it. But I felt like it was necessary for me to do it.
Right. So now you're Caroline. So now it's
Okay.
Caroline Leavitt. So again, so you can find her website is Caroline, Caroline Leavitt,
Yes. Right.
LEAVITT.com. And not pirate anything like Red Pirate Roberts or
So, I know some people have really weird names that they want to change.
I it's really funny because I was Carrie Ann when I was a child and I actually hated it. I did not like it. It was
Oh, that's
Carrie
such
Ann
a
all
great
the way
name.
through. It was all through school. And when I left home, the very first thing I did was teach everybody to call me Carrie instead. And I really liked that. And then when I needed a pen name, I just came back to Carrie Ann because, hey,
Yeah, it's a really strange thing. But oh, thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you. I loved it too. Thank you so much for being here today, Carolyn. Caroline. There we go. With or without you, this beautiful cover. You
Thank
guys
you.
want to read it, so go find it. So
Yes,
you have,
please. Thank you so much.
and thank you again for being here. This was
So much fun. It was really so much fun. I had a blast carrying it.
okay.
And thank you all who showed up, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, everybody. Take care.